At the moment, some issues have already been considered, and one of them include the reception of the report of its Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organization on the confirmation of the appointment of Abike Dabi-Erewa as Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission. That report has been presented, although that report has actually lingered for some time. It's now presented, and then what awaits that report now is consideration and approval or otherwise. At the moment, the Senate had received executive communication from Mr. President on decline of assent to 5 bills. Well, the President also stated reasons for his reason to decline assent to those bills. Well, let's take you straight to the Red Chamber to follow proceedings of the day.
To make sure that never in our history again will we conduct this type of militarized elections. The role of the Nigerian Army is very, very clear. If a policeman by the polling unit cannot carry a gun, what will a military man armed to the teeth, both original and fake military people, what will they be doing in INEC office? The home of one of the commissioners in Rivers State, we saw the video taken over by the military. They even entered his kitchen and arrested people indiscriminately. Nigeria is not a banana republic. If we're out of fear, or some of us here, out of our election being declared as inconclusive, refuse to speak, a day will come, our children will ask us, Daddy, you were a senator. Mommy, you were a senator. When Nigerian elections was getting bad, what did you say? What did you do? A word is enough for the wise. I so move.
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues. Mr. President, let me say that the essence of having the Senate is to ensure that we provide legislative intervention whenever and wherever. Let me second it, but before I second, let me. Mr. President, the essence of having a legislature is to be able to provide legislative intervention to smoothen governance process, to ensure fairness and equity in all affairs of governance. Mr. President, the challenges of elections in Nigeria have been here for a long time with us. It behoves us to look at those issues that we think and are convinced that truly require intervention by the legislature. When and if we are able to do that, we would have provided solution to the issues that Senator Dino Melai has raised. I believe that our process remains a journey. The electoral process in Nigeria still requires a lot of refining, a lot of fine-tuning, so that gradually we reach the El Dorado. Mr. President, let me say that the executive is equally concerned. So here we have an opportunity to discuss with the INEC what the challenges have been in this current dispensation, particularly 2019 general elections, to have a panoramic view and evaluation of the total situation and see what we really need to address. But for me, and I believe for all of us here, the ball is squarely in our court. That is to say that we should review what happened and see where legislative interventions are required and where we believe is supposed to be administrative intervention. We put it forward before the executive for the amelioration of the program or the problems. I believe that INEC would have a lot to say. I recall that when INEC postponed the elections in the first instance, we were all sad. We felt we should find out what happened, because it has become a trend that every general elections in 4 years would be postponed, and that would cause a lot of trauma and massive losses of resources, including INEC itself suffering. So I believe that what we need to do is to look at those issues raised. Which ones can we provide legislative intervention? But I believe that it requires INEC, it requires the executive, just like the legislature is very concerned. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And with this very brief intervention, let me say that it doesn't require secondment because it's a straightforward motion.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, my name is Biodun Olujimi. I represent Ekiti South. What happened on the 23rd at the general elections has been properly captured by Senator Dino Melai. Whatever we're going to say will just be simple additions to this. But Mr. President, we're Nigerians. We're in Nigeria. And for this Nigeria to be a place for all of us, we must be able to speak truth to power. What is wrong is wrong. What went wrong during the elections are fundamentals which must be properly addressed. Whoever is citing what went wrong at the general elections for partisanship is unfair to Nigeria and Nigerians, and is unfair to the future of democracy in Nigeria. And because of this, Mr. President, we must be able, as elected members and representatives of the people, be able to tell the truth where it should be. That election was a sham. There was no way that election could have been an advancement on the 2015 elections. Because in 2015, everything was done according to the will of the people. Mr. President, everything was inconsistent. INEC was inconsistent. The parameters they used were different in various states and in very many units. That is wrong. Mr. President, can I finish, sir? There was massive deployment of military. In fact, it was inelegant to use the EFCC to rout people. They used the civil defense. All of them carried arms. Mr. President, there is no wrong that can validate another. We must be able, as a legislature, and this might even be what the 9th Assembly will start with. We need to look at the processes of our elections. From now on, somebody somewhere has refused assent to the electoral amendment. That amendment must be brought out and signed by Mr. President so that we can at least know that we are going part of the way. 2, Mr. President, rigging was legalized. Vote buying was the order of the day. We need to look into it. And the only arm of government that can do that is the legislature. The time has come for the legislature to rise to this occasion. And we are regulating INEC. Excuse me, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, let me distinguished colleagues, let me come in here, please. We have an opportunity to take this motion in a very stately and get some results. If those contributing must restrict clearly to the issue, because otherwise it will degenerate and will not make any progress. Senator Dino has raised most of the issues. So any contribution now, I would like to say is let me just finish. Should be strictly on us going at the prayers that has become, if there are contributions or suggestions, and we move forward. Because if we carry on, at the end of the day, we will not achieve the purpose of the motion. So if anybody is going along those lines, I will interject and we'll go straight to the prayers. The prayers have been said. The lead debate, lead motion, who was this main sponsor has said, if there's any contribution to suggestions, then we'll make otherwise we will not make any progress. So let me restrict that clearly so that we can yeah. Just wait, just let her finish now. She will finish now after you finish. Yeah. Hey, that's what I said. That was why I intervened.
Mr. President, Nigeria belongs to all of us. Being a member of a political party does not preclude them from what is happening in Nigeria. And the APCs always want to equate their party with Nigeria. That cannot be. And until we ensure that even elections are not conducted because it is a partisan election, we will not be moving forward. Nigeria has to move forward. The APC must be able to surrender itself to the processes and do well with Nigeria. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, I want to suggest we move to the prayers. Let's go to the prayers. Let us move to the prayers, leader. Okay. Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. President. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Mr. President. Mr. President. Order. Mr. President. Permit me. Mr. President. Mr. President, permit me to raise this point of order. Order 53-4. Order 53-4. Order 53-4, Mr. President, with your permission, I read. And it says, a senator must confine his observations to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, even the mover of the motion,
Which point of order is that?
Never, ever question the elections that took place. I feel that because there is an established process, there is an established mechanism through which anybody who feels dissatisfied of the elections, either process or outcomes, can go and follow the process. The election should have no business here. Debate should not be on the elections. If there are issues, we can discuss those issues. So I shall submit.
Order is sustained. Distinguished colleagues, please, this motion is very specific. This motion is very specific. And I think that we have had 2 or 3 people that have contributed. If anybody, the only person I would like one more person, Senator Mao, because I know that you also raised this motion. You must restrict yourself strictly to the motion itself, and after that we'll go into prayers. Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, please, I want us. Mr. President, I want to come from the point. I want to come from the point made by the leader. I want to come from the point. Wait now, Yayi. Please, I want to come from the point made by the Senate leader. Mr. President, I want to say that if we took the pattern he has set after the main motion, we'll be speaking as elder statesmen. We'll be speaking as senators. Like he said, we are legislators. We want to look at from the legislative perspective. Like, even before, I second this motion wholeheartedly, especially the prayer. But I want to stand here to commend two people. One, I want to commend the House of Reps, who took the bull by the horn. They had discussed this issue as legislators. Excuse me, I don't want assistance. And they came up with resolution. Excuse me. Number two, sir, as I commend the House, I also want to commend the Chief of Army Staff, who for the benefit, for the image of Nigeria and the military, knew that any allusion, any allegation must be looked into. And he took the bull also by the horn by setting up a committee to look into the involvement of the military. We all know that legally, constitutionally, be it Electoral Act, the military, please now, the military has no responsibility in election because their function is protection of our territorial boundaries. And I think that if we have observed things after this election, as senators, it's our responsibility to come back here, discuss it. Some we may have not had direct influence, but maybe from what we read or from what we saw. I give an example. Like he said, what we are building is a way also to look at the electoral bill or electoral act, which we should begin to work now, because from the experience of what happened here will guide us to mitigate anything that will restrict or stop free and fair, credible election. Let's not please look at it from partisan point of view, whether you're in party A or in party B. If you look at these prayers, Mr. President, he has asked that we should ensure that the committee on INEC should invite INEC and look at what are the ways forward. What do we do? Mr. President, like I said, it will be unheard of if you look at some of the pictures we are seeing. People will be laughing at us. Some of us belong to IPU, ECOWAS, and other international parliamentary union. When you go there, elections are discussed. What will you say? I told somebody, I didn't have any personal contact with the army. But what I'm saying is that when we saw what happened in Port Harcourt, or I went to Port Harcourt, I returned the other day with Andrew Chendo. I was telling her, I said, listen now, I was telling Andrew Chendo, I said on the road, I'm not saying the road was blocked. And I asked that it's not right for the army to block a major road. That's all I'm saying. So on that note, Mr. President, I want to urge my colleagues that these prayers are quite statemently. I don't see anything vexatious in this prayer. We should go to these prayers and adopt them and make amendments where necessary, because this will help to improve and add value into the Electoral Act, because we are legislators. The executive will come in, the legislature will come in, INEC will come in. Together we'll build a better Electoral Act for future of Nigeria so that we'll have a credible election. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, prayer one. Condemn massive use of military forces in national electoral process of the nation. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge INEC to ensure unrestricted and consistent application of all electoral laws without bias to a candidate or party in no election. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, direct the Senate Committee on INEC to investigate all perceived inconsistent applications of electoral law by INEC in the 2019 elections. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 4, urge the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to give assent to the recent amendment to the electoral to ensure a level playing field and adoption of equal standards in national election for a strong and peaceful democracy in Nigeria. Those in favor of prayer 4, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Okay, additional prayer.
No, it's an amendment. So do your work now. Do your work. The place is rowdy. It's rowdy. I have the floor. I have the floor.
We see you sit down already.
But
I see you sit down.
yes, sir.
You are minority.
Can you please give me a chance? Mr. President. Okay, you are not hearing now.
Well, the atmosphere here at the Red Chamber appears to be very rowdy. This followed a motion that just moved by Senator Dino Melaye. Well, the motion here helps with the need to assess the involvement of the military in the 2019 election that just took place. And then, well, 4 prayers are contained in that motion, which the Senate President just put the prayers and 4 of them passed through. And then there's an additional motion, additional prayer by Senator Kabiru Marafa. He wants to raise this additional prayer.
Be looked into and look.
Any second, all right, any seconder. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order. Sorry, order.
Order, please. Additional prayer.
Leader of the Senate.
Order, please. Order.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
I was with you.
Distinguished colleagues. Asabi. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues.
Senator Fasheyi. Senator Fasheyi.
Senator, go back to your seat.
Send it to me.
Senator, go back to your seat. Senator Woboshi, go back to your seat.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day.
Senator Woboshi, go back to your seat.
The third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions on the screening of the nomination of Dr. Abubakar, representing the Northwest, for appointment as a non-executive director of the board of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Distinguished senators will recall that the request was referred to the committee on Wednesday, the 23rd day of May 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Rafiu Adebayo, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Rafiu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Rafiu Adebayo Ibrahim, representing Kwara South. I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions on the confirmation of Dr. Abdul Abubakar as a non-executive director of the board of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I so move.
Senator Samayon.
Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions on the confirmation of Dr. Abdul Abubakar as a non-executive director, CBN, be seconded. I so second, Mr. President.
Those in favor that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions on confirmation of Dr. Abdul Abubakar as non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Afiba, come and lay your report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It will be recalled that the Senate at the sitting on Thursday, 31st May 2018, consider and approve the report of the Committee on Bank Insurance and Other Financial Institutions on the confirmation of nomination of non-executive directors of the Board of Central Bank in accordance with Section 6, 1D, 10, 1, and 2 of the CBN Act. However, the consideration of Dr. Abdul Abubakar nomination was stood down and referred back to the committee for further legislative action. The committee revisited the reason that led to the non-confirmation of Dr. Abdul Abubakar as non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank of Nigeria, due to certain allegations raised with respect to his stewardship and tenure as an executive director of First Bank of Nigeria PLC, and as special advisor to the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, and found that the allegations against him are baseless and erroneous. The committee is satisfied with his academic and professional qualifications, his competence, experience, suitability, and character to serve as a non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank of Nigeria. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Dr. Abdul Abubakar as a non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The committee wishes to sincerely express its appreciation to the Senate under the leadership of the Senate President for giving this opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you very much.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate is brought to the Committee of the Whole to consider the report.
Mr. President, I second the motion as moved.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Go straight to, no, any other observation, go straight to recommendation. The Senate confirm the nomination of Dr. Abdul Abubakar as non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse plenary for the chart report progress. Second.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that will refer to plenary for progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, consider the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as a non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank, and approved nomination of Dr. Abdul Abaka as a non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Will the Senate approve the nomination of Dr. Abdul Abaka, representing Northwest, for the appointment as non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Dr. Abdul Abaka is hereby confirmed as non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank of Nigeria. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the resumption of adjourned consideration of the report of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development on the National Fertilizer Quality Control Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that further consideration on the report at the Committee of Whole was deferred at clause 18, renumbered as clause 19 to another legislative day on Tuesday, 17th of July 2018. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move that the Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole to resume consideration of the report. The Chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture, is not here at the moment. So, Mr. President, I move that we stand down. Okay. Senator Sabi, Ali Abdullahi. No, the report. You are not presenting it. We are continuing with it. You will stand in for the chairman. So where is the report? Where's the report? Oh no, we don't have it. Give us the report, distribute the report. We need food in Nigeria, isn't it? We need to facilitate more food. So we take agri. Executive Vice Chairman. Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider the report.
Mr. President, I second the motion that the Senate.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we have 29 clauses. We'll start from clause 1, because subsequent to our last deliberation of this matter the bill was sent back to Director of Legal, and they've reviewed and worked on it. So we'll start from clause right from the beginning. Page 2. Those in favor of that clause 2, 3, 4, and 5 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. As on page 4. Those in favor of that clause 6 and 7 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. As of page 5. Those in favor of clause 8 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in clause 9, 10, 11, and 12 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 13. Those in favor of that clause 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Page 8, clause 18. Those in favor of clause 18, 19, 20, and 21 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 22. Those in favor of clause 22 and 23 and 24 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 25 on page 10.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want the chairman to educate us on the wisdom of the amendment they made here by changing from to facilitate on behalf of government the implementation of the bill, because every other thing is the same. The minister may, by regulation, 25. Yes, the minister, 25, yes. The minister may by regulation make provisions for carrying into effect the provisions of this bill and for its due administration, such as the appointment of a National Fertilizer Technical Committee in the bill referred to as NFTC, which is all the same. So the amendment here is the bill seeks to change from to facilitate on behalf of government the implementation of the bill to as an advisory body to the prescribed authority. I don't understand. To me, it's like watering down the former provisions, because the former provision says to facilitate on behalf of government, which is better than to act as an advisory body. So I don't quite understand. Yes. 25, page 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Raja North. The issue you raised here, earlier on in the bill, we are talking about a prescribed authority. So rather than leaving it as facilitate on behalf of government, the implementation of the bill, it was now reduced to the prescribed authority as captured in the beginning of the bill, which says, you check clause Clause 2. A person shall not carry on business as a manufacturer, blender, or importer of fertilizer in Nigeria without obtaining a permit or certificate of registration from the prescribed authority. So the idea here is that the fertilizer committee is actually made up of professionals who have different affiliations, but they are to serve as advisory body to the prescribed authority that has the final say. I think that is the idea. It is to make it more clear, because when you say government, who is the government? So the prescribed authority here is the government. I think that is the clarification. Is it okay? Thank you.
All right, so we'll make progress. Those in favor that Clause 25 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 26 and 27. Those in favor that Clause 27 and 27 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that Clause 28. Clause 28 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that Clause 29 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that Schedules 1, 2, and 3. Schedules 1 and 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. And those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that long title on page 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse plenary for the Charter for Progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do now revert to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole resumed consideration of the report on the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development on the National Fertilizer Quality Control Bill 2019 and approve as follows: Clauses 1 to 7, 8 to 21, 22 to 28, Schedules 1 and 2 as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the committee.
Sorry, Third Reading.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bill be now read the third time.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this bill be now read the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the bill be now read the third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The bill is read the third time and passed. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to regulate manufacture, importation, distribution, and quality control of fertilizer in Nigeria and further related matters 2019 third reading.
A bill for an act to regulate the manufacture, importation, distribution, and quality control of fertilizer in Nigeria and further related matters 2019 is read third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Information and National Orientation on the National Orientation Agency Act Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Wednesday, the 17th day of October 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Suleiman Adokwe to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
Senator Suleiman Adokwe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Information and National Orientation on the National Orientation Agency Act Amendment Bill 2019, SB 33. I so move.
Senator Dada.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I stand support that the bill should rise for the third time. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Information and National Orientation Agency Act Amendment Bill 2019, SB 333. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Senator Adokwe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the report of the Senate Committee on Information and National Orientation on a bill for an act to amend the National Orientation Agency Act Cap 100, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to provide an operational framework for the Global Initiative for Harmony Corps to promote interethnic integration, mediation, peace building, mutual understanding, patriotism, for peaceful coexistence, and for related matters. The Senate, at its plenary on Wednesday, November 2017, deliberated on the National Orientation Act Amendment Bill 2017, SB 33. After extensive debate on the general principles of the bill, it was read for the second time and referred to the Senate Committee on Information and National Orientation. The bill was sponsored by distinguished Senator Dino Melaye, Kogi West Senatorial District. It was read for the first time at the floor of the Senate on Wednesday, 28 March 2017. Objectives of the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the objective thrust of the bill, in our humble view, is that it seeks to amend the National Orientation Agency Act to, among other things, provide for legal and operational framework for the Global Initiative for Harmony Corps, Nigeria, in order to A, promote interethnic integration, cohesion, mutual understanding, patriotism, and solidarity among Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in diaspora, irrespective of tribal and religious differences. B, advocate for and inculcate among Nigerians the true spirit of nationalism, love for one another, and respect for the Constitution and loyalty to the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. C, to engender peaceful coexistence among Nigerians. D, assist ministries, departments, and agencies of government in handling environmental challenges, management and conservation of ecosystems, and the preservation of the natural resources through orientation. Collaborate with the federal, state, and local government in the eradication of antisocial behaviors, such as street hawking, cultism, armed robbery, examination malpractices, and drug abuse. And F, embark on public enlightenment programs in the areas of immunization, sanitation, election, and other metropolitan and urban development issues. Accordingly, the committee set out to take the following legislative actions: to embark on extensive consultation with the relevant stakeholders on the merits, justification, or otherwise of the bill, to undertake comprehensive analysis of similar legislations in other jurisdictions and the need to have this legislation in place, and finally to conduct a public hearing in order to collect the inputs of stakeholders and general public in line with the legislative agenda of the 8th Senate. A public hearing was held, and as you can see on page 3, the list of people who responded to the public hearing. The public hearing was held and declared open by the Senate President, who was effectively represented by distinguished Senator Philip Aduda. this public hearing brought out a lot of issues where there were a lot of support for it, and also there were people who were against it. But on the roll, we in page if you go to page 9, you'll find, if you can go to page 11, distinguished colleagues, you'll find observations and findings there. The first finding, that majority of stakeholders that made presentations at the public hearing supported the passage of the bill. Nevertheless, dissenting opinions were also expressed by some stakeholders in opposition to the passage of the bill. Details as captured in the highlight presentations above. That the passage of the bill will create a national platform for educating Nigerians on ideals and conventional approaches that will guarantee and ensure lasting national peace, integration and cohesion for harmonious living, irrespective of religious or tribal differences, through conscious strategic partnership with law enforcement agencies, the paramilitary organizations, and the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That any issue that pertains to interethnic integration, mediation, patriotism, and peaceful coexistence of the country should, as a matter of fact, be of strategic importance to us as a nation in view of the current state of the country, whereby communal and interethnic clashes, religious violence, extremism, acrimony characterized by hate speeches have gained momentum in almost all segments of our societal lives. That peace, harmony, and unity are the basic prerequisites of an egalitarian society that can guarantee sustainable development, to which the extent of progress and the limit of transcendence in that regard can be achieved. This can only be made possible through massive enlightenment and value reorientation, which is the hallmark of the contemplation of this bill. Finally, that even though it was canvassed by certain stakeholders that the passage of this bill will bring about conflict of interest or duplication of functions of existing bodies, as it will help to address, its passage will no doubt complement the efforts of existing bodies, as it will help to address the multifaceted complexities of peaceful coexistence and unity in a diverse society like Nigeria, which of course will require multidimensional approaches in handling them. As such, the passage of this bill should be supported because of its laudable objectives. My distinguished colleagues, the essence of this is that the Peace and Harmony Corps had been in existence as an independent private organization, but supervised by the National Orientation Agency. What this bill simply has sought to do is to amend the National Orientation Act and accommodate the existing corps, which has helped the National Orientation in dealing with its propagation of reorientation of the Nigerian society. This is the simplest task we have to do this morning. The Senate Committee on Information and National Orientation, to which this bill was referred, having carefully considered same, recommends as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the National Orientation Agency Act as amended. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us the opportunity to serve, and we pray that the Senate will speedily pass this bill. Thank you, sir.
Any comments? Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate Resources Committee will want to consider the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate now move into Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, there are 3 clauses here. Those in favor of clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 2. Clause 2 is from page 1 to page 29. From page 1 to page 29. Page 2, still on clause 2. Page 3, still on clause 2. Page 4, still on clause 2. Page 5, still on clause 2. Page 6, still on clause 2. Page 7, still on clause 2. Page 8. Page 9, still on clause 2. Page 10, on clause 2. Page 11, 12. Page 13, (14, 15, 16), page 17, 18, page 19, page 20, page 21, page 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Those in favor that clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that the first, second schedule stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor the long title, page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse plenary for the chart report progress.
Mr. Chairman, I second that the Senate revert to plenary to report progress.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole looked at National Heritage Agency Act Amendment Bill 2019 SB 333, Clause 1 to 2 as recommended, Schedules 1 to 2 as recommended, Explanatory Memorandum as recommended, Short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bill be now read the third time.
Distinguished colleagues, I second that the bill be read a third time.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the bill now be read third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the National Orientation Agency Act, Cap N100, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide an operational framework for the global initiative for harmony corps to promote inter-ethnic integration, mediation, peace building, mutual understanding, patriotism for peaceful coexistence, and for other matters connected therewith. 2018, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend the National Orientation Agency Act, Cap N100, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide an operational framework for the global initiative for harmony core to promote inter-ethnic integration, mediation, peace building, mutual understanding, patriotism for peaceful coexistence, and for other matters connected there in 2018 is read the third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters on the Nigerian Council for Psychologists, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Tuesday, the 6th of November, 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Emmanuel Porker, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
Senator Porker.
Mr. President, report of the Senate Committee on Establishment and Public Service on a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Council for Psychologists and for related matters, SB 625. I move that the Senate do consider the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Shiosani.
I'd ask to move that the Senate do consider the report on the Committee on Establishment and Public Service. I so move. Second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters on the Nigerian Council of Psychologists, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018 SB 624. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Porker, Senate report, please.
Mr. President, the Senate at this plenary sitting on Wednesday, 30th May 2018 deliberated on the Nigerian Council for Psychologists Establishment, etc. Bill 2018 SB 625. After debate on its general principles, which was led by distinguished Senator Ben Moribus, OON, Bayelsa East Senatorial District, the bill was read for the second time and referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service for further legislative action, via Senate Order of Referral, dated 31st May 2018, to report back on its recommendation. Objective of the bill in a nutshell seeks to establish the Nigerian Council of Psychologists to, among other things, regulate the practice of psychology in Nigeria by ensuring that only qualified and certified psychologists are allowed to practice in order to provide qualitative psychological services to Nigerians. Committee legislative action. After the referral, the committee at one of its meetings deliberated further on provisions of the bill and thereafter resolved to conduct public hearing. As a prelude to the public hearing, the committee placed advertisement in print and electronic media and invited memoranda on the provisions of the bill. A lot of stakeholders responded to our call for submission of memoranda. Legislative summary. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, at this juncture I wish to state that the committee have critically scrutinized the provision of the bill in line with the presentation made by stakeholders. In our recommendation, due considerations were given to the valid views conversed by stakeholders, and we have reflected them in the provisions of the bill. The committee also carried out various amendments on the provision of the bill. The amendment ranged from editorial corrections to the draft of some provision of the bill for elegance. The modifications carried out by the committee are set out in the table for ease, understanding, and clarity. Observation and findings. The committee, having painstakingly analyzed the above presentation from stakeholders, hereby observes and find as follows: that all the stakeholders except the Society of Public Health Professionals of Nigeria supported the passage of the bill, that the position of the antagonists of the bill was premised on issues which have been addressed by the committee in its recommendation to the Senate, that the passage of the bill will ensure that the psychology profession is properly regulated and will rid it of charlatans and quacks who have exploited vulnerable Nigerians in the guise of being professional psychologists, and that a well-coordinated and regulated psychology profession can complement government effort towards national development. Recommendation. The Senate Committee on Establishment of Public Service, having considered this bill, hereby recommend as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the Nigerian Council for Psychologists Establishment, etc. Bill 2018 as amended. I so move. In conclusion, I wish to use this medium to thank His Excellency Senator Dr. Bukola Saraki, CON, the President of the Senate, and our distinguished colleagues for the privilege given this committee to serve in this capacity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments? If not, Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate is also committee of the whole to consider the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that we resort to a committee of whole for consideration of this bill.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleague, we have 26 clauses here. Those in favor of that clauses 1 and 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of that clauses 3 to 7 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 8 on page 8. Those in favor of that clause 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of that clauses 9 to 14 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of clause 15 on page 22 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 16 on page 24. Those in favor of clause 16 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of clause 17 to 22 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor, that's 23 to 25 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 26 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that schedules 1 and 2 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of the explanatory memorandum on page 45 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse plenary for the charge of fourth progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I second that the Senate reverse plenary to report progress.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that refer to plenary, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the National Council for Psychologists establishing etc. Bill 2019 SB 624 and clauses are recommended as follows. Clauses 1 to 40 as recommended, 15 to 25 as recommended, schedules 1 to 2 as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's...
We have third reading.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bill be now read the third time.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that the bill be read the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the bill be read the third time say aye. Those against say nay. Bill is now read time. Clap.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Council for Psychologists and for other related matters 2019, third reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Council for Psychologists and other related matters 2019 is read the third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I will move that the Senate suspends plenary for 2 weeks to enable our standing committees conduct the important business of budget defense for the 2019 appropriation bill. I therefore move that this Senate returns to plenary on the second day of April 2019. I so move.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having exhausted the items on the order paper, I rise to second that the Senate do suspend plenary to enable committees attend to budget matters and stand adjourned till 2nd of April 2019. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion to adjourn and suspend plenary to 2nd of April, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We hereby adjourn and suspend plenary to the 2nd April 2019, 10 a.m. prompt.
This is who round off today's live broadcast of Senate plenary. Well, at the moment, Senate had resolved to investigate alleged inconsistent application of electoral laws by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The legislators have also confirmed the appointment of Abdul Abubakar, representing Northwest, as a non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank of Nigeria, while the report on the confirmation of the nomination of Abike Dabire-Rewa for appointment as chairman and chief executive officer of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission has been received by the Senate and awaits consideration. Well, the Senate has now adjourned to reconvene on the 2nd of April 2019. This is to enable its committees to attend to budget defense. I am Ignatius Nko, and on behalf of the outside broadcast crew, bye for now.